Wansoo, a woman from a poor background who has become a wealthy golfer, is a guest speaker at a UNICEF event. During her speech, she shares a story about a young girl who survived abduction by a terrorist group. Afterward, her secretary informs her of threats received from the same group, suggesting they cancel their plans, but Wansoo refuses. She then meets Prince Mohammed for an interview before visiting a shopping district in Manila to prepare for a fundraiser. As she leaves a jewelry store, a sniper shoots the young woman accompanying her, missing Wansoo. Her bodyguard attempts to protect her, but is also killed. Shocked, Wansoo is saved by a man named Doyoon, who takes cover with her and manages to fend off the sniper. Doyoon helps her escape in an SUV, but they soon experience engine trouble and find a GPS tracker inside. Realizing the tracker is compromising them, Doyoon suggests they ditch the car and avoid contacting the police, fearing possible corrupt connections. He proposes they head to his nearby home for safety. Though Wansoo is wary, she agrees. At Doyoon's house, Wansoo's suspicion grows, but Doyoon assures her he's only trying to help. He offers to take her to the embassy and advises her to call someone she trusts to meet her there, but she admits she can't remember any phone numbers. They share a brief moment of connection, which Wansoo quickly dismisses. Reunited with her husband Kim at the hospital, Wansoo faces more challenges. Her mother-in-law, Mrs. Park, asks her to deliver a bribe to the Chinese ambassador and cancel the evening's party. Wansoo refuses both requests, which angers Mrs. Park, who openly wishes her harm. Meanwhile, Doyoon reconnects with an old contact within Hwain Group, owned by Mrs. Park. They plan to work together again, revisiting an unresolved case. Later, at the party, the head of security introduces Doyoon to Kim as the newest addition to the security team, mentioning their history at the police academy. Wansoo recognizes him and feels a renewed spark. As the evening unfolds, Wansoo reflects on her journey. Growing up, her mother worked for Mrs. Park, who treated her harshly. Despite the abuse, Wansoo's mother taught her to play golf with stolen clubs, sparking her lifelong passion and eventual success in the sport. Wansoo, once from a poor family, became a successful golfer after her mother sent her to the U.S. to compete. She quickly rose to fame, known for using a 7-iron, a club she had since childhood, even when it wasn't ideal. As her career grew, Wansoo earned substantial prize money, but had to spend much of it paying off her mother's gambling debts. Despite these challenges, she became known as the Angel of Charity for her donations. During a charity event, Wansoo's husband, Kim, leaves with a female guest, and she later finds them together. Though hurt, she warns them about the risks of public exposure given the media presence. She rejoins Kim, maintaining appearances, leaving others unaware of the turmoil in her personal life. Later, Wansoo confronts her mother-in-law, Mrs. Park, who is harsh and confrontational. Wansoo firmly stands her ground, questioning Mrs. Park's manipulative behavior and stating that her success is her own. She explains that she remains committed to her charity, the Now Foundation, and won't be held back by personal obstacles. That night, Wansoo visits a bar, recalling how she met Kim when he volunteered for her foundation. In the present, as she returns to her hotel, Doyoon, her bodyguard, follows to ensure her safety. They share a brief, heartfelt moment before Kim interrupts, though Wansoo signals Doyoon to stay, not wanting to face her husband. After Kim leaves, Doyoon exits quietly. Back in Korea, Doyoon begins his duties at the mansion. He reveals to the chief of security that he recently investigated the death of his friend Yuk in Manila. Later, he finds an SD card hidden in an old photo frame containing footage of Hwain Group's former chairman's dead body, hinting at foul play. Wansoo, feeling uncomfortable with Doyoon's presence, tells him to keep his distance. He, however, warns her that her attackers were not terrorists, but skilled professionals, suggesting a conspiracy within Hwain Group. He vows to stay by her side for her protection. Meanwhile, Wansoo tells her brother she wants to expand the Now Foundation internationally. Her brother resists, as the foundation has been used to launder money for Hwain Group. Despite his concerns, Wansoo is determined to clean up the foundation's operations and continue its charitable work, unaware of the looming threats surrounding her. Wansoo, fully aware of the laundering activities tied to the Now Foundation, is determined to end Miss Park's control over it. Despite her brother's concerns, she instructs him to proceed with her plan to stop Miss Park's influence. He then asks if the authorities have caught the sniper who attacked her in Manila, but the shooter is still at large. Wansoo questions if Miss Park could be behind the attack. Her brother doubts it, though he warns that Miss Park's ruthless nature makes it difficult to rule out. Wansoo later confronts the woman involved with her husband Kim, intending to put her in her place. Instead, the woman turns the tables, revealing that Kim's marriage proposal wasn't out of love. Allegedly, he was involved in a scandal with a celebrity who overdosed, and his family, eager to rehabilitate his public image, orchestrated his introduction to Wansoo, who had a rags-to-riches story. Miss Park saw Wansoo as the perfect match for her son's new public image. Furious, though unsure of the story's truth, Wansoo leaves. That night, Kim tries to reconcile, saying he loves her and wants to save their marriage. Wansoo reveals she knows the boy with the other woman is his son and suggests he send them abroad to resolve things. Kim refuses, claiming he needs his mother's permission, which leaves Wansoo disappointed. The next day, Miss Park arranges a family photo and insists Jun-hee, the child, be included, suggesting to Wansoo that the public might assume he's her son. Miss Park even brings Jun-hee to live in the mansion, putting him in Wansoo's late son's room. Frustrated, Wansoo leaves the house to clear her head, and her bodyguard, Doyoon, joins her. On a beach walk, Doyoon helps her clean her feet, but she warns him to stick strictly to his duties as a bodyguard. Later, Kim suggests having another child to save their marriage. When Wansoo rejects him, his persistence escalates until Doyoon intervenes, restraining Kim and reminding him not to harm her. Wansoo asks Doyoon to drive her away, which he does. In the following days, Doyoon continues investigating the suspicious death of Hwain Group's former chairman. He discovers that, although the chairman was reported to have died of a heart attack at the Grand Palace Hotel, video footage reveals he was taken from an entirely different building. Doyoon suspects both the chairman and his friend Yuk, who was investigating the case, were murdered. The next morning, Wansoo's brother presents her with a resignation contract from Miss Park. Unwilling to back down, Wansoo takes action by leaking to the press that Jun-hee is Kim's son from an affair. The media frenzy sends Hwain Group's stock into a nosedive, and Miss Park convenes an urgent family meeting, furious about the situation. At a press conference, Wansoo shocks everyone by denying that Jun-hee is Kim's son and claiming he is actually the son of Hwain Group's late chairman. Miss Park is outraged, and Wansoo's brother can hardly contain his laughter. Miss Park confronts Wansoo, demanding her resignation, but Wansoo asserts she's doing more for Hwain Group than Kim and refuses to be bullied into leaving. Wansoo refuses to resign from the Now Foundation, warning Miss Park that if she keeps pressuring her, she'll expose the money laundering scheme tied to the foundation. A few days later, Miss Park invites Jang and her son to live at the mansion, claiming it's the right thing since Jang was her late husband's lover. Wansoo firmly warns Jang to stay out of her sight. That night, Wansoo goes for a run with Doyoon, her bodyguard. Doyoon questions why she stays in her marriage instead of divorcing. She recalls a conversation with the former chairman who asked her to stay married to Kim until he revealed an important secret. At a university event, Miss Park wears the same dress as Wansoo and, in frustration, takes it out by challenging Doyoon to a judo match. Unlike the other guards, Doyoon defeats her, which seems to impress her. Later, Miss Park shows Wansoo photos of her mother in a psychiatric hospital. Shocked, Wansoo visits her mother, who, in her final moments, apologizes for exploiting her. After the small funeral Miss Park arranges, she pressures Wansoo to meet the Chinese ambassador for a new business deal. Emotionally exhausted, Wansoo refuses, angering Miss Park, who threatens her. Feeling overwhelmed, Wansoo decides to turn off her phone and spend some time away. Doyoon takes her to her old house so she can scatter her mother's ashes, but someone photographs them together and sends the picture to Miss Park. When Wansoo and Doyoon return, Kim is waiting. He punches Doyoon and fires him, but Miss Park later has Kim apologize, assuring him that nothing improper is going on. Determined to uncover the truth, Doyoon continues investigating his friend Yuk's death. He visits an underground gambling club connected to Hwain Group, drawing attention from the club's boss. The chief of security warns Doyoon to stop digging, but Doyoon insists on finding out what happened to his friend and confronts the chief about the former chairman's death. The chief admits the chairman died during an affair, and the family covered it up to avoid a scandal, but denies any involvement in Yuk's death. Meanwhile, Wansoo makes a bold move, starring in an ad for a competing company, claiming she needs funds to buy vaccines for Africa. This action creates a backlash within her family, who demand she rectify the situation. Later, while Wansoo is in a car with Doyoon and another bodyguard, they are attacked by explosive drones controlled by Lee Jin, one of the mansion's bodyguards. Doyoon manages to dodge the initial attacks, but one drone hits the car, flipping it over. Lee Jin believes she has succeeded and leaves, but Doyoon crawls out of the wreckage and rescues Wansoo, who is still alive, pulling her to safety. After the car explosion, Doyoon's back is injured by shards of metal as he shields Wansoo. Both are rushed to the hospital, where Doyoon undergoes successful surgery to remove the debris. When Wansoo wakes, she asks about Doyoon, then quickly corrects herself, inquiring about the bodyguards. Kim, her husband, reassures her that they will be fine. Outside the hospital, reporters are waiting, speculating that the attack might be linked to the terrorist group that threatened her. Miss Park pressures the police to find the attackers, not out of concern for Wansoo, but to protect Hwain Group's stock, which suffers after each attack. Once Wansoo is discharged, she visits Doyoon, scolding him for risking his life. Doyoon replies, it was what his heart told him. He shows her CCTV footage from the attack, which he obtained from a police contact, but she declines to watch, expressing her trust in him. They share an emotional moment before Wansoo leaves. The next day, Wansoo asks her brother for the Now Foundation's financial ledgers, suspecting irregularities. Her brother warns her that the ledgers were altered for tax purposes and that if exposed, they could all face jail time. She insists on getting the ledgers, determined to protect herself and end Miss Park's control over the foundation. Wansoo enlists Doyoon to retrieve the ledgers from Mr. Han's room, Miss Park's most trusted associate. Doyoon uses Han's fingerprint from a glass to access his room and finds a safe. He installs a hidden camera to capture the safe's password, but finds some ledgers outside the safe and takes them. Lee Jin, another bodyguard, sees him and informs Han. Later, Wansoo is confronted by authorities, who search Now Foundation's office and arrest her brother on embezzlement charges. Calm, her brother reveals he has leverage over Hwain Group, ensuring they won't let him fall alone. Miss Park then orders Wansoo to go to Busan for a public event and to appear affectionate with her husband. During the trip, Wansoo shares an intimate moment with Doyoon, unaware that Lee Jin is secretly photographing them. Lee Jin has orders from Han to make it look like Doyoon murdered Wansoo after staging their affair. That night, she attempts to kill Wansoo with a knife. Doyoon arrives in time, locks Wansoo in a room, and battles the assassin. As the fight intensifies, Wansoo escapes and hides on a boat. Doyoon ultimately overpowers Lee Jin, throwing her into the water before escaping with Wansoo. At sunrise, Doyoon and Wansoo share a quiet romantic moment and their first kiss. The next day, Wansoo poses with Kim for a public photo shoot, faking happiness for the cameras. Inside, her feelings are entirely focused on Doyoon. Afterward, she tries to understand Kim's thoughts, especially if he fears his brother might inherit Hwain Group. Meanwhile, Miss Park examines the photos of Wansoo with Doyoon, contemplating whether to release them publicly. Han advises caution, reminding her that her husband's will is due to be opened by month's end. Later, Han reprimands Lee Jin for her failure, reminding her that he can harm her family in China if she doesn't follow orders. That evening, Miss Park leaks photos to the media, alleging Wansoo has an affair with her bodyguard, Doyoon. Kim, Wansoo's husband, confronts his mother, angry that she would ruin his marriage. Their argument reveals deeper family issues. Kim accuses Miss Park of cheating on his father with Mr. Han, which she dismisses as justified due to her husband's neglect. The next day, Mr. Han arranges for Wansoo's brother to be released on bail, instructing him to retrieve the financial ledgers from Doyoon. Doyoon, however, warns the brother to be cautious of Han, revealing that the ledgers could send Miss Park to jail. Later, Doyoon breaks into Han's safe and discovers that Kim's brother Min is actually Han's son. Kim later confronts Han, accusing him of killing his father, but Han denies it, claiming Kim's father's death was unrelated. Kim, suspicious of Doyoon, confronts him with a rifle, demanding to know if he has a relationship with Wansoo. Doyoon deflects, revealing that he suspects foul play in the chairman's death and that a police friend who was investigating it also died mysteriously. Wansoo intervenes, urging Kim to allow Doyoon to continue his investigation. On the day the chairman's will is read, it's revealed that he left 18 trillion won to the Now Foundation, with Wansoo as the sole executor. She must visit a Swiss bank to access the funds in person. Furious about the inheritance, Min confronts Han, who reveals that they were responsible for the chairman's death. Enraged, Min demands a portion of the estate, but ultimately feels abandoned by his father. Wansoo's brother and Doyoon plan to hand the ledgers to Han. However, Lee Jin, a hired assassin, ambushes the brother and fatally wounds him. Doyoon chases and injures her, but fails to prevent her escape. The brother dies in the hospital, and Han, now holding the ledgers, reports him to the authorities to clear Miss Park of any involvement, further solidifying his position. Miss Park is arrested soon after on charges of embezzling funds. When Doyoon learns of this, he tells Wansoo that their evidence may not hold up in court since they were obtained illegally. Meanwhile, Miss Park's daughter-in-law, angry that Min wasn't named in the will, reports Han's activities to the police. Lee Jin tries to escape, but is caught by Doyoon, who identifies her as his brother's killer and hands her over to the police. Later, Han uncovers a bloody gold bar in the woods, which Min used to kill the chairman. He uses it to blackmail Miss Park in prison, demanding she confess to ordering Wansoo's assassination. Otherwise, he will implicate Min. Frustrated, Min storms into the mansion, threatening Kim over the inheritance. Han seizes a rifle and attempts to kill Kim, but in the scuffle, Kim is fatally shot. In his dying moments, Kim tells Wansoo he truly loved her, but struggled to show it. Han orders Min to erase the CCTV footage, but police later recover it and arrest Min when gunpowder residue is found on him. Meanwhile, Miss Park confesses to hiring Lee Jin to kill Wansoo. With mounting evidence, Han is arrested, solidifying Wansoo's freedom. Finally, Wansoo is free from her tumultuous family, and Doyoon returns to the police force. A year later, as Wansoo prepares to leave for a charity mission in Tanzania, Doyoon surprises her at the airport. Now a volunteer, he reveals that he will be joining her on her mission